On this slide, we will be diving into the concept of social engineering attacks as it pertains to penetration testing. Social engineering attacks are a key component of any comprehensive security assessment, as they focus on manipulating human behavior to breach security protocols and gain unauthorized access. Understanding and performing social engineering attacks is crucial. It allows penetration testers to identify vulnerabilities not only in technological systems, but also in the human element of security. This can help in formulating more holistic security plans that take into account the way people interact with technology. In summary, social engineering attacks can be a powerful tool in the arsenal of a penetration tester, highlighting the importance of security awareness and training within organizations. Moving on to the next slide, we will explore phishing, one of the most prevalent forms of social engineering attacks. We'll discuss its definition, impact, and various techniques for performing phishing attacks, including a practical example using the Social Engineering Toolkit, or SET. Slide 2, Phishing. Now that we have an overview of social engineering attacks and understand their importance in penetration testing, let's dive into one of the most common forms, phishing. First, we'll define what phishing is. Phishing is a type of social engineering attack where attackers trick individuals into divulging sensitive information, such as usernames, passwords, or credit card details, by pretending to be a trustworthy entity in electronic communications. Phishing can have a significant impact on both individuals and organizations, often leading to unauthorized access to sensitive data, financial losses, and even identity theft. Next, let's discuss some techniques for performing phishing attacks. These techniques can vary, but common methods include spear phishing, where the attacker targets a specific individual or organization with personalized messages, and whaling, which targets high-profile individuals like executives. One effective tool for performing phishing attacks during penetration testing is the Social Engineering Toolkit, SET. SET Toolkit allows you to create various phishing campaigns by cloning websites or sending phishing emails that appear legitimate. In our example, we'll demonstrate how to use SET Toolkit to create a phishing email. First, you'll navigate to the SET Toolkit on your system and select the Social Engineering Attacks option. Then choose Email Phishing Attack and follow the prompts to configure your phishing campaign, including the payload and the email template. Remember, the primary goal here is to educate and help organizations strengthen their defenses against such attacks. In the next slide, we will discuss another type of social engineering attack, Vishing. Let's move on.
Now that we've covered phishing, let's move on to Vishing. Vishing, or voice phishing, is another form of social engineering that targets victims over the phone. Unlike phishing, which often uses email or messages, Vishing exploits human trust through voice communication. The impact of Vishing can be incredibly severe. Attackers may use it to gain sensitive information, such as social security numbers, banking details, or even to manipulate individuals into taking harmful actions. Techniques for performing Vishing attacks can include using pretexting, where the attacker assumes an identity that the target might trust, such as a bank representative. Additionally, voice modulation software can be employed to mask the attacker's real voice, making the ruse even more convincing. For example, an attacker might pose as a technical support agent from a well-known company, using voice modulation to sound authoritative. They might then convince the victim to share private information or install malicious software on their devices, thinking they are following legitimate advice. Next, we'll delve into whaling, where we'll discuss how attackers focus on high-profile individuals and how targeted spearphishing emails are crafted specifically for these high-value targets, such as CEOs.
Moving on to our next topic, we now focus on whaling. Whaling is a highly targeted form of phishing aimed at high-profile individuals within an organization, such as executives or CEOs, due to the potentially high value of their data and access. Firstly, we'll look at the definition and impact of whaling. Whaling attacks specifically target senior management, understanding that their position and influence could result in a significant impact if compromised. The stakes are higher due to the sensitive data and potential access privileges that these individuals possess. Next, we discuss the techniques used in whaling attacks. Cybercriminals undertake thorough research to learn about their targets, leveraging social media and public databases to gather detailed personal and professional information. They then use this information to craft highly personalized and convincing spear-phishing emails. These emails are typically sophisticated, mimicking legitimate business communications, and may even include personalized details to enhance credibility. For example, we might see an attacker crafting a spear-phishing email tailored for a CEO. This email could come from a seemingly trusted source, such as a known business partner or fellow executive, and might discuss urgent financial transactions or sensitive company information, prompting the recipient to disclose confidential data or click on a malicious link. In our next slide, slide 5, we will delve into spear phishing. Spear phishing similarly targets specific individuals, but often on a broader scale compared to whaling. We will examine its definition, impact, techniques, and even explore tools like GoPhish for creating spear phishing campaigns. Stay tuned.
On the previous slide, we discussed whaling, a type of targeted phishing attack that focuses on high-profile individuals like CEOs. We defined what whaling involves, its impact, and the specific techniques used to carry out these attacks. We also looked at an example of crafting a spear phishing email for a CEO, demonstrating how attackers personalize their approach for maximum effectiveness. Now, let's move on to slide 5, where we'll cover spear phishing. Spear phishing is a more focused type of phishing attack designed to deceive a specific individual or organization, rather than casting a wide net like traditional phishing. This type of attack typically involves gathering detailed information about the target to craft a highly convincing message, which makes it more difficult for the victim to identify as malicious. We'll look at the definition and impact of spear phishing, diving into some common techniques attackers use. Techniques include extensive research on the target, utilizing social engineering methods, and often incorporating real-world details to lend credibility to the campaign. As for the practical component, I'll introduce you to GoPhish, an open-source phishing toolkit designed for running spear phishing tests in your organization. GoPhish allows you to create realistic spear phishing campaigns, helping you to identify potential vulnerabilities and educate your team on recognizing these types of attacks. We'll walk through an example of setting up a spear phishing campaign using GoPhish, showcasing the steps involved from creating the email template to analyzing the results of the campaign. Next, in slide 6, we'll discuss smishing, or SMS phishing. We'll define what smishing is, its impact, and the techniques used to perform these attacks. Additionally, we'll go through an example of crafting a smishing message with the goal of harvesting credentials. Slide 6 introduces the concept of smishing. Smishing, short for SMS phishing, is a type of social engineering attack conducted via text messages. Just like email-based phishing, smishing aims to trick individuals into divulging sensitive information or clicking on malicious links. Let's delve into the specifics. 1. Definition and impact of smishing. Smishing involves sending fake messages that appear to come from legitimate sources. These messages can prompt targets to provide personal information, passwords, or financial details. The impact can be far-reaching, leading to identity theft, financial loss, and unauthorized access to corporate systems. 2. Techniques for performing smishing attacks. Smishers use several techniques, from creating messages that appear to be from banks or service providers to sending links that lead to phishing websites designed to look authentic. Often, urgency or alarming content is used to prompt immediate action from the victim. 3. Example: crafting a smishing message to harvest credentials. Imagine receiving a text message that seems to be from your bank. Your account has been compromised. Please verify your details to secure your account. The message includes a link to a fake banking website. When the victim enters their credentials, these get harvested by the attacker for malicious use. Up next, in slide 7, we'll discuss a completely different technique: dumpster diving. This method involves scavenging through discarded documents and trash to find sensitive information. We'll explore its definition, impact, common methods used, and a practical example.
Continuing from our discussion on smishing, let's move on to another notable social engineering attack: dumpster diving. In this slide, we will cover the definition and impact of dumpster diving. Dumpster diving involves sifting through waste or discarded items to uncover sensitive information that was improperly disposed of. Despite feeling low-tech, this strategy can be quite effective. Next, we will discuss various techniques used in dumpster diving. These can range from looking for shredded documents that can be pieced back together, to finding discarded paperwork that contains passwords, financial information, or even unprotected digital media like USB drives. Lastly, we will look at a practical example. Imagine an attacker searching through a company's discarded documents and finding a sensitive report that was not shredded. This report could contain critical business information or personal data about employees, making it valuable for various malicious purposes. Understanding dumpster diving is crucial for developing robust data disposal policies, which we will delve deeper into shortly. Next up, we'll discuss surveillance, which is another tactic attackers use to gather information. Stay tuned.
Moving on from dumpster diving, we now focus on another form of information gathering: surveillance. Surveillance involves monitoring a target's actions, behaviors, or communications, often covertly, to gather valuable information. This can have significant impacts, such as gaining insights into a target's daily routines, identifying security vulnerabilities, or even compromising sensitive data. There are several techniques for performing surveillance, including physical monitoring, using cameras, GPS tracking, and digital surveillance like monitoring online activities. For example, let's consider monitoring a target's physical location. This could involve observing their daily commute, noting the times they leave and return home, or even tracking the locations they frequently visit. This information can then be used to predict their behaviors and plan further actions. In our next slide, we will discuss shoulder surfing, another method attackers use to gather information.
Now let's move on to slide 9, shoulder surfing. Shoulder surfing is a form of social engineering where a person observes a target to gain access to information such as passwords, PINs, or other confidential credentials. The impact of shoulder surfing can be significant as it compromises personal, financial, and organizational security. There are various techniques used for shoulder surfing attacks. One common method is simply watching over someone's shoulder as they enter their details on a device in a public space. Another way might involve using devices like smartphones or small cameras to discreetly record the target's actions without their awareness. For example, consider a situation where an attacker positions themselves behind someone at an ATM or in a coffee shop, subtly observing them as they input their PIN or password. This information can later be used to gain unauthorized access to the victim's accounts or secure areas. On the next slide, we will discuss tailgating, its definition, the impact it poses, and techniques for carrying out such an attack.
Now, moving on from the topic of shoulder surfing, let's discuss another common physical security threat: tailgating. So, what is tailgating? In the context of security, tailgating refers to the act of an unauthorized individual following an authorized person into a restricted area without explicit permission. This seemingly simple act can have a significant impact on organizational security because it could grant unauthorized individuals access to sensitive information or secure locations. To perform a tailgating attack, an attacker might closely follow someone who has legitimate access, taking advantage of moments when doors or security gates are open. Attackers often rely on the politeness or distractions of authorized personnel in these instances. For example, they might slip in behind someone who holds the door open for them, assuming they have legitimate access. Let's consider a practical scenario. Imagine a secure facility with restricted access, such as an office building with access-controlled doors. An attacker waits near the entrance during a busy time of the day, like lunchtime, and then follows an employee who badges in, gaining entry without any credentials of their own. As we transition to our next slide, we'll explore the related threat of eavesdropping. We will define what eavesdropping is, its potential impacts, and the techniques attackers use to capture private conversations. For instance, we'll discuss how an attacker might use a parabolic microphone to listen in on confidential discussions. Stay tuned for that.
Continuing from our discussion on tailgating, let's delve into another significant security threat: eavesdropping. Slide 11 focuses on eavesdropping and its implications. By definition, eavesdropping refers to the unauthorized interception of private communication. The impact of such activities can be profound, leading to the leakage of sensitive information, identity theft, and other severe security breaches. Eavesdroppers deploy various techniques to capture private conversations or data. These methods range from using simple listening devices to more sophisticated gadgets like parabolic microphones, which can capture sound from a distance. Let's consider an example. An attacker could use a parabolic microphone to intercept confidential discussions taking place within a seemingly secure area. This scenario illustrates how eavesdropping can compromise even well-guarded information. In the following slide, we'll explore another type of attack, the watering hole attack, focusing on its definition, impact, and execution techniques. We'll also examine an example of how malicious code can be injected into frequently visited websites to target specific groups. Let's navigate to that now.
In the previous slide, we discussed eavesdropping, the act of secretly listening to private conversations, and explored the techniques attackers use to perform these acts, including the use of parabolic microphones to capture conversations covertly. On this slide, we shift our focus to another insidious tactic, the watering hole attack. This type of attack involves targeting specific groups or organizations by compromising websites they frequently visit. Essentially, the attacker identifies a site that the target group is known to access and then injects malicious code into that site. When members of the target group visit the compromised site, their systems become infected, granting the attacker access to sensitive information or the ability to monitor their activities. The impact of watering hole attacks can be far-reaching, potentially affecting an entire network of users. For example, an attacker may inject malware into a popular industry forum or a widely used software repository, knowing that members of the targeted organization will eventually download or access the compromised content. Next, we will explore impersonation, another prevalent attack vector. We will define impersonation, discuss its consequences, and examine some techniques attackers use to create fake identities to gain unauthorized access.
Now, on this slide, we'll be focusing on impersonation. Impersonation is a type of attack where an attacker pretends to be someone else in order to gain unauthorized access to sensitive areas or information. The impact of these attacks can be significant, as they can lead to data breaches, financial loss, and damage to an organization's reputation. In terms of techniques, attackers often create fake identities or profiles, clone websites, or even use social engineering tactics to trick their targets into divulging information or granting access. For instance, an attacker might send an email that appears to be from a trusted colleague, asking for login details or sensitive documents. A practical example of impersonation could involve creating a fake executive identity to gain access to the executive lounge in a company database, thereby obtaining confidential corporate strategies or financial reports. This strategy is particularly effective because it relies on the strength of personal trust within organizations. In the next slide, we'll delve into credential harvesting, where we'll explore how attackers collect login credentials and the tools used, such as EvilJinx and EvilJinx 2.
On the previous slide, we discussed impersonation, a social engineering attack where an attacker creates a fake identity to gain access to sensitive areas. We covered its definition, the techniques involved, and provided an example of how it's done. Now, let's move on to credential harvesting on slide 14. Credential harvesting is the practice of collecting user credentials, such as usernames and passwords. This type of attack can have significant impacts, including unauthorized access to sensitive systems and data breaches. There are various techniques for performing credential harvesting attacks. One common method is using phishing emails with links to fake login pages. Another method involves leveraging tools like EvilJinx, a man-in-the-middle attack framework. EvilJinx 2, for instance, can effectively bypass two-factor authentication by capturing session cookies along with the credentials. In our example, an attacker might use EvilJinx to set up a phishing site that mirrors a legitimate login page. When the victim enters their credentials, those details are logged by the attacker. Next, we'll delve into the social engineering toolkit set on slide 15, which is a powerful toolset for performing social engineering attacks. We will look at an overview of SET, explore techniques for using it, and see an example of creating a phishing campaign with SET. Let's proceed to the next slide.
In the previous slide, we delved into the concept of credential harvesting, looking into its definition, the impact it can have on an organization, and various techniques attackers might use to perform these kinds of attacks. Specifically, we discussed how tools like EvilJinx can be employed effectively to harvest credentials. Now, moving on to this slide, we're going to explore the social engineering toolkit, commonly known as SET. SET is a powerful tool designed specifically for social engineering attacks. It provides a broad range of techniques that one can apply to exploit human behavior and trick victims into divulging sensitive information. One key feature is its ability to create highly convincing phishing campaigns. By using SET toolkit, you can craft phishing emails that closely mimic legitimate communication, enhancing the chances of successfully deceiving your targets. This makes SET an invaluable tool for both attackers and penetration testers, aiming to assess the security awareness of their employees. In the upcoming practical example, we'll walk through creating an entire phishing campaign using SET. We'll go through the steps involved, from setting up the tool to executing the phishing attack and analyzing the results. This hands-on example will help you understand the inner workings of SET and how it can be leveraged in social engineering attacks. In the next slide, we'll take a closer look at another tool named GoPhish. Similar to SET, GoPhish is another popular tool used in phishing campaigns, but it offers a different approach and set of features that can be advantageous in various scenarios. We'll provide an overview, delve into techniques for using GoPhish in social engineering attacks, and conclude with an example campaign.
On this slide, we'll be discussing GoPhish, another powerful tool frequently used in social engineering attacks. GoPhish is an open-source phishing framework designed to make it easy to simulate real-world phishing attacks. It offers a comprehensive suite that allows you to create and manage phishing campaigns and provides robust analytics to measure the effectiveness of these attacks. Within GoPhish, you can craft highly targeted spear phishing campaigns, tailoring emails and landing pages to specific individuals or groups, making the attack look more legitimate and increasing the likelihood of successful credential capture. Our example here will demonstrate setting up a spear phishing campaign using GoPhish. We'll walk through the process of configuring a campaign, designing a phishing email, and setting up a phishing landing page. By the end of this example, you should have a clear understanding of how to leverage GoPhish effectively in simulated phishing scenarios to assess and improve the security posture of an organization. In the next slide, we'll explore EvilJinx, which takes a slightly different approach by focusing on credential harvesting through man-in-the-middle phishing techniques. Now, let's shift our focus to EvilJinx on this slide. Similar to GoPhish, EvilJinx serves as a powerful tool commonly used in credential harvesting attacks, where the goal is to capture user login credentials. First, we'll delve into an overview of EvilJinx. EvilJinx is a man-in-the-middle attack framework that enables attackers to intercept and manipulate traffic between the victim and a legitimate service. It works by setting up proxy servers that relay the communication appearing genuine to both the victim and the target service. Moving on to techniques for using EvilJinx, one common approach involves setting up phishing campaigns where users are lured to a fake login page. This page, which closely mimics a legitimate service, captures the credentials entered by the unsuspecting victim. Once the credentials are captured, they can be used for unauthorized access. To provide a practical example, we'll see how to set up EvilJinx for a phishing campaign. This process involves configuring domain and DNS settings, setting up SSL TLS to make the phishing site look more authentic, and finally, customizing the EvilJinx phishing templates to match the look and feel of the legitimate site you are targeting. Next, we'll move on to the Harvester. This tool will assist us in collecting emails and other valuable data for our social engineering attacks. Stay tuned.
In the previous slide, we delved into EvilJinx, exploring its capabilities in credential harvesting and demonstrating how it can be set up for phishing campaigns. Now, let's shift our focus to another powerful reconnaissance tool, the Harvester. The The harvester is an essential tool for gathering information about potential targets, specifically designed for open source intelligence (OSINT) gathering. It can be incredibly effective in social engineering attacks. By leveraging various public sources, the harvester can collect valuable data such as email addresses, subdomains, and other points of interest. To illustrate this, let's consider a practical example. If you wanted to gather email addresses from a specific domain, like example.com, you could use the harvester with the following command: the harvester example.com-L500b Google. This command instructs the harvester to search Google for up to 500 results associated with the domain example.com. By compiling a comprehensive list of email addresses and other relevant data, the harvester allows attackers to craft more targeted and convincing social engineering attacks. It underscores the importance of understanding the available tools and techniques to better protect against such threats. Next, we will explore the use of Maltego in building a visual map of target information.
In the previous slide, we discussed the harvester and explored its various applications, such as gathering email addresses from specified domains. Now, let's dive into another powerful tool for social engineering and information gathering, Maltego. Maltego is a comprehensive data mining tool that allows you to map out relationships and find connections between pieces of information. What sets Maltego apart is its ability to create a visual representation of the data, making it incredibly intuitive for analyzing complex networks. When using Maltego in social engineering attacks, you can uncover relationships between individuals, organizations, domains, and more. This visual approach not only aids in understanding the target, but also helps identify potential vulnerabilities. For example, you can use Maltego to create a visual map of a target's information by combining various data sources. This can include social media profiles, domain registries, and public records, all linked together to provide a comprehensive view of the target's digital footprint. In the next slide, we will move on to discussing Recon-ng, another valuable tool for conducting open source intelligence, OSINT, gathering. We will see how it can be utilized for extracting detailed information on targets. In our previous slide, we explored Maltego, a powerful tool for visualizing relationships between various pieces of data in social engineering attacks. We discussed how to create visual maps to gain insights into target information. Now let's turn our attention to another essential tool in our arsenal, Recon-ng. Recon-ng is an open-source framework designed for web-based reconnaissance. Its modular structure allows us to gather open-source intelligence, OSINT, efficiently and systematically. Using Recon-ng, we can deploy a variety of techniques to gather crucial data on our targets. These techniques might include identifying associated social media profiles, domains, and email addresses, among others. The tool automates much of this process, providing a streamlined way of collecting information. To give you an example, we can use Recon-ng to perform domain reconnaissance to uncover subdomains, IP addresses, and metadata that might be linked to our target. This data not only provides valuable insights, but also aids in painting a comprehensive picture of our target's digital footprint. In the next slide, we will move on to the Browser Exploitation Framework, or BEF. We'll look at how BEF can be utilized to exploit browser vulnerabilities, further expanding our toolkit for social engineering attacks. In this segment, we'll explore the Browser Exploitation Framework, commonly known as BEF. BEF is an advanced penetration testing tool that focuses on the web browser, which is often a weak link in security. We'll start with an overview of the BEF tool, delving into its primary features and functionalities. This framework allows attackers to hook a target's web browser and use it as a pivot point for launching further attacks. It essentially enables you to exploit browser vulnerabilities to gain unauthorized access or control. Next, we'll discuss various techniques for using BEF in social engineering attacks. This includes methods such as phishing campaigns and drive-by downloads, where the attacker entices the victim to visit a malicious site, enabling the attacker to gain control over their browser. To provide a concrete understanding, we will go through an example where we exploit browser vulnerabilities using BEF. We'll demonstrate how to set up and execute an attack on a target browser to gather information or manipulate the victim's browser activity. In the next slide, we'll conclude and review the key social engineering attack techniques and tools discussed throughout this course, emphasizing the importance of mastering these skills for successful penetration testing. Now let's move on to the demo.
In summary, this course provided a comprehensive overview of various social engineering attack techniques and tools. We began by exploring basic concepts and gradually moved on to more sophisticated methods like phishing, pretexting, and baiting. One key tool we delved into was the Browser Exploitation Framework, or BEF, which is particularly effective in exploiting browser vulnerabilities during social engineering attacks. As we conclude, it's essential to emphasize the importance of practicing and mastering these techniques. Effective penetration testing is not just about understanding the tools, but also about being able to apply them in real-world scenarios accurately and ethically. Your next steps should involve hands-on practice through lab exercises and real-world simulations. Further learning can be attained through advanced courses, reading up on the latest in cybersecurity threats, and staying updated with the evolving landscape of social engineering tactics. Thank you for participating in this course. We hope you found it insightful and that it enhances your skill set as a penetration tester.